So let's go back. What made you decide to enlist in the military years ago?
Actually, I had no plans of joining. I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. So from the age of 5 years old, I knew that that's what I wanted to be because of my very own kindergarten teacher. So all through school, anytime anyone would ask me, what do you want to be? I would say kindergarten teacher, just like Mrs. Davies. And it wasn't until I had graduated and was actually planning on going to Glenville State, and an Army recruiter came to my family home and was talking to my brother and I, and yeah, it was everything that we kind of we fell right into that trap of, you know, the travel opportunities, the college, and everything just sounded really good to us. I mean, because my brother's a year older. I'm kind of middle, and then my sister's a year and a half younger, and you know, we thought that that would be a great way to be able to take that financial burden off of all three of us, especially our parents putting us into college all at the same time.
And you probably had no idea you'd be the face of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
I actually still didn't know until like months after, because nobody had told me. And I happened to ask my parents after I was rescued that, does anyone from back home, my family, my friends know that I'm missing? And she was like, sweetheart, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, absolutely had no idea. I mean, we obviously were told, you know, that's a possibility that anytime that you join, that's part of signing that dotted line, and taking the risk of knowing that you could be potentially killed or captured. So yeah, I mean, we knew it, but you just never expect it to actually happen.
Do you regret signing that dotted line?
Not at all. Not at all. Do I, at any point in the past 20 years, have I ever regretted it? I would still do it today if I was able to, because it was everything that I had hoped it to be. I just obviously would have wished for a different outcome.
You're a teacher now.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it like for a student to have Jessica Lynch as their teacher? Especially when you cover war topics.
Well, actually, I'm a sub right now. So when I go into the classrooms, I do different schools. I'm in 2 different counties. So I try to hit different schools, different classrooms, different grade levels. So I've had probably all the students at one point or another, and I absolutely love it. But the kids find it amazing. The younger ones still kind of don't really understand it or know. The ones in my hometown know who I am. But the ones kind of in the other county, but the older students, yeah, they know, they appreciate it, and try to get me off topic and try to get me to talk about everything except for what we're supposed to be learning. But you know, that's all part of a sub job.
That's right, and it's a great educational opportunity for them as well.
Yes, yeah. So anytime I am, especially the older grades, I do try to, you know, touch base a little bit about what I went through, because it's not all the time that you receive a former POW as a teacher. Mm-hmm. So I do. I try to take a little bit of time and just tell them a little bit about what I went through, or, you know, kind of plug in a little bit of the joining the military.
Let's go back to that night when the military vehicle crashed. Yeah. What's the last thing you remember? And then what's the next thing you remember when you came out of everything?
Yeah, so it was actually very early in the morning, about 6 a.m., when we crossed into the city of Nazaria, which was only our 3rd day of being in country. So President Bush officially declared war March 20th. By March 23rd, we found ourselves into the city. And instantly, we kind of knew that that's not where we were supposed to be. So we made it a little bit into the city, tried to turn ourselves around, get back out of there. But then that's when we were attacked. I remember, you know, especially my best friend who was driving, kind of really being brave and just dodging and just going as fast as she could. But at that point is when we realized that out of the 6 weapons that we had within the vehicle, only 2 of them were actually working. And then that's kind of when it really became real and got scary. And then it was, yeah, I was knocked unconscious, and we're still not sure exactly what caused me. But I know that I was the first one to be knocked out. So when I awoke, it was about 2-3 hours later that the military doctors are estimating. But yeah, they're saying that in that time we were struck by an RPG, which is a rocket-propelled grenade on the right side of our vehicle. We ended up slamming into the back of a semi-trailer, and at that point, the other 3 men that were inside of the vehicle were eventually shot and killed, and the driver later died of head trauma.
What's the next thing you remember
Yeah.
after the incident?
Yeah, so I woke up in the Iraqi hospital, and I was laying on this bed, and that's the point where I realized that something wasn't right, because I opened my eyes to see these Iraqi men standing over top of me. And yeah, so that's the point where I started to kind of jump and jerk to get away from them. And I realized that I was unable to move anything from my, waist down, and I thought I was paralyzed. I knew that I couldn't move my right arm, and my head was hurting. So, but yeah, so I woke up, and yeah, it was hard to communicate with them. There was one Iraqi who could speak kind of broken English, but other than that, none of them were able to communicate with me.
I read recently where you had to set the record straight.
Yes.
The Pentagon had released information to the media,
Correct.
and the media at some point took it upon themselves to embellish the story, saying that you were stabbed, that gunshot wounds, Rambo of the West Virginia Hills was the name you were given.
Mm-hmm.
But you combated that. You went to
Correct.
Congress and you set the record straight and said, no, that didn't happen.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So what happened with that was, or what I was told, so after I was rescued, which was in April 1st, but I was not able to speak until I got out of the military, which was at the end of July. So as you can imagine, from April to July, the end of July, all the stories started coming out, and I guess they had confused myself with another soldier that they had saw or someone had seen do certain acts, and they just assumed it was myself. But no, I was knocked unconscious, not moving, unable to run. I didn't, you can't do anything when you're knocked out. So yeah, I wanted to be able to come and be able to set the record straight immediately as soon as I could. And it was just the right thing to do, because we have so many heroes, especially, that were inside of that unit that day, that deserved the recognition, and was able to, set the record straight and be able to say, nope, I think it was so-and-so. And then we were able to go back and kind of verify and see who was at what locations around the ambush point.
What has life been like for Jessica Lynch over the past 20 years?
Oh, it's been crazy. I mean, honestly crazy, but I have a 16-year-old daughter now, so she drove to school for the first time today, which was not fun at all, but she did great. She did great, but yeah, just having a 16-year-old. But other than that, I went back to school, as you said, got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree in communication studies, and I've just been kind of traveling the world and having fun with it, but also being able to stay grounded and keeping my true roots here in West Virginia.
Is it tough to stay grounded when you're the first female POW since World War II? The face of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Everyone knows your name, especially people who are old enough to remember when that happened.
Yeah.
You're synonymous with the Iraq War.
Yeah, it was hard at first, and I get a lot of hate still, especially on social media. Like, a lot of people like to put their input in and go with the stories, like we were talking about before with the controversy, but you just kind of let them go and let them say whatever they need to say. I mean, I've tried as much as I could of setting that record straight. But yeah, I mean, I live a very normal life here, and it's not unusual to see me about in the malls or Walmart, just and having fun with it, because I think that's the main part is just enjoying life now.
Mm-hmm. And being able to share your story with so many people, especially children. That's got to be gratifying
Yeah, it really is. Again, I love being in the school systems, but not only that, but it kind of opens the door that I can go into neighboring counties as well and talk to them, and just kind of being there and being the support system that they need, because a lot of kids had parents to go through the same kind of ordeal that I did, whether it was Afghanistan or Iraq. And yeah, it's nice to be able to talk to those kids. And some of them are 18, 19, 20 years old now as well. But it's nice to be able to tell them, you know what, it's okay. Like, it's okay. It's been a crazy past 20 years with us going through the war, but it's nice to be able to say, you know what, we have your back.
In closing, I'd like to ask you this real quickly.
Yes.
The past few weeks, you've been in Washington, D.C., recognized
Yes.
on the federal level. Talk about that. What happened and what was that like?
Yeah, so I went to D.C. and spoke at the Women's Military Museum and Memorial, sorry about that. And it was absolutely amazing, but they were able to recognize me with a Living Legend Award. So that was a huge, huge honor. But more importantly for me, it was just being there, walking through the memorial, seeing all the women who have their stories in there, and some of them are still living, but most of them have passed. But it's about keeping their legacies alive and just telling those stories as much as we can to get young girls especially to understand that, you know, we have women in the military, and it's not just you're thinking of a veteran as an older gentleman, that we do have women that serve there. So yeah, it was nice to be able to be in the museum and just say, yeah, look at us, look at us.
What else did you do in D.C.? Did you meet with any other people, or?
I did not there, but I've been in Indianapolis over the past few weeks, and then I was in Phoenix last week. So been just kind of jumping around, and then we'll have New York City coming up in April.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add? Any particular message to folks watching?
Yeah, just continue persevering, because that's been my motto for the past 20 years, is never give up, no matter what kind of obstacle, struggle, whatever it is you're happening going through, whether it's financial, relationship, you know, whatever it happens to be, is just never give up, find that inner strength. And I know that kind of sounds, you know, cliche, and that's what everyone says, is don't give up, but it's honestly the truth, is just find that inner strength and keep going, because that's what's going to get you through some of the hardest times.
Those words have depth, don't they?
It really does.
Yeah. Okay, I lied. I have one more question. You're an actress. You were in a movie.
I was actually
talk about that.
I was actually in 3 movies.
3 movies.
So 3 movies, very small parts though, nothing huge or anything. But yeah, I worked with a producing company out here. I think they're in Clarksburg now. Great people to work with, and then also one out in Tucson, Arizona. So absolutely wonderful movies. They were all family based. So I wanted to make sure that they were family friendly, faith based, and I wasn't getting myself into anything that I wasn't familiar with. But yeah, I've met a lot of great actors through that. And
do you plan to pursue that anymore, or just stick with teaching and traveling and educating people about your situation?
Yeah, no. I mean, I enjoy doing it, especially as a favor for some of my friends. But no, it's definitely not something that I will pursue. Like,
how many publications do you have? You've written 1 book, right?
I have 1 book, and then this fall we're going to release our 2nd one.
Okay.
So yeah.
Can you tell us what the title is?
I can't tell you what the title is, but I can say that it is not a follow-up. We're going to hit some of the stories, but or kind of review, I guess, and then it's going to be kind of just a different take of things that I've learned over the past 20 years, and just kind of continuing, like, just giving those messages of hope.
All right. Yeah. Jessica, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.